All right, let's go ahead and get started. Welcome back, everybody, to the Terry Hansen Show. It's great to be with you once again. Oh, how I have not only myself, but my co-hosts, Mr. and Mrs. Potato Head. They've missed you terribly, too. So we're grateful to have you here today. Grateful to be back with you today. Today, you and I have got to do some talking about products and why you should stop selling your products immediately. Now, I know that sounds crazy, but we're going to talk a little bit about why you should stop selling your products and why selling products is a bad idea. Now, it's not what you think, so bear with me. Stay with me just a minute. I want to share with you a quick story to kind of illustrate a little bit of the point. About 65 years ago, I guess let me back up. Recently on YouTube, I think it was YouTube or Facebook, I saw an NFL clip that happened. It was like one of the worst NFL plays of all time or something like this. Anyway, it was going back about 55 or 65 years at this point. And back in 1965, 1964, there was an NFL game being played by the Minnesota Vikings versus the San Francisco 49ers. And one of their defensive ends, a gentleman by the name of Jim Edwards, there was a pass that was made, and the 49ers had thrown it, and one of the guys tried to catch it, and it ended up being fumbled. Anyway, Jim Edwards on the Minnesota Vikings team, he was a defensive end. He saw the opportunity and ran forward and snatched up the fumbled ball. And as soon as he grabbed the ball, he looked up and saw the end zone, and he just started booking it. He started trucking, running as fast as he could go, and he's making progress. There's nobody in sight, right? He's got is a defensive end, of course, and so he's super excited. Anyway, he runs a full 66 yards, and there's no one on him. He's looking back and forth, and there's no one on him. It's a clear shot to the end zone. He's booking it and running. He gets to the end zone. He throws the football up in the air, knowing that he's just scored a touchdown. He turns around looking for all of his teammates there, and there's nobody there. And he's kind of a little confused. And just then one of the San Francisco 49er players walks up and slaps him on the chest and says, "Thanks, Jim." And he realized he had run the wrong way. He ran the wrong way, and he ended up running a safety instead. But oh, how miserable did he feel? You could see the images of the highlights on the sidelines. He's standing there with his arms on his hips and kind of just scratching his head, and the crowd is just going bonkers. Anyway, it was such a crazy experience, running 66 yards to score what he thought was a touchdown and get all this applause, and it turns out to be the wrong way. And oftentimes I think of us as entrepreneurs, as sales professionals. Sometimes when we're out hunting and prospecting for new business and working hard to find new clients for our companies, sometimes we can inadvertently, when we're introducing ourselves at a trade show, over social media, at a networking event, over the phone, via email, face-to-face, whatever it might be. Sometimes, like Jim Edwards, you and I can get turned around and we can start running the wrong way. And we can start focusing too much on selling our products rather than, here's the punchline, selling the next step in our process. So that's the punchline right there. So why you should stop selling your products as soon as you can is because it is the wrong way to book meetings and get yourself an audience with decision makers and your ideal clients. Instead, what you and I have to do is, instead of pushing and being so focused on selling our product or our service, what we need to be doing is instead focusing on what's the next step of the process that they would need to take in order to get one step closer to having to closing a sale with them. So let me just illustrate this point really quick, and then share a tactic with you that I learned from a gentleman by the name of Russell Brunson about opening and closing loops. Okay, so walk with me here. So I've got just a simple sales pipeline, sales funnel here, if you will. So you and I are out hunting for new business. We're on email, we're on social media, we're over the phone, we're at a networking event, whatever, and we're trying to get an audience with our ideal client. We've got the decision maker, say, over the phone, and we introduce ourselves right here, right? Now, in the selling process, usually after we introduce ourselves, we're going to schedule a meeting or a conversation to have what they call a needs analysis or a needs assessment, where we qualify the opportunity. And then that usually leads to a sales presentation where we put together a bid or a proposal, give it to them, we review it, and then we obviously close the sale. And so pretty straightforward, right? But what I'm talking about is focusing right up here. Oftentimes, one of the mistakes that I see a lot of entrepreneurs and freelancers and sales professionals make is during this introduction stage right here, they try to use basically their product as the key motivator for why they want to meet with them in the first place. So they'll introduce themselves with something like, hey, John, my name is Terry Hansen. I work with such and such a company, and I was just curious. We offer our clients ABC thing, and I was just curious if you had a need for that sort of thing or who you use for that sort of thing, right? So in the introduction, the entrepreneur sales representative will lead with the product. I have this product. Do you need this product? Oh, you do? Let's schedule a time to have a conversation. And what I'm suggesting is when we introduce ourselves that way, leading with a product, we're in essence trying to sell a product. We're bypassing all of this, and in our introduction, we're kind of just going right to the close. We're holding a product out there or even a service and saying, do you want to buy this? Do you? Oh, good. Then let's talk. Let's have a meeting and start talking. And what I'm suggesting is when that sort of approach happens, when we do that approach, we run into a lot more rejections and objections and no thank yous, I'm not interested, or we're already happy with who we're using, or we tried that and it didn't work, or again, we're happy with who we're using, no thanks, we're good. We'll get a lot of that we'll run into a lot of those kinds of walls. But what I want to suggest to you is maybe making a little bit of a switch. Instead of focusing only on the product, dangling the product out there for them to tantalize them and get them interested. Instead of that, and kind of going for the close on the first conversation, let me suggest, instead of focusing on the product, sell the next step in the process. Okay, so let's maybe do a quick little example, quick little analogy here. When you first contact a decision maker and you introduce yourself, you are basically, what you're doing is opening a loop. A loop has a beginning and it goes around in a circle and it has an end, right? So when you introduce yourself, you in essence open up a loop. The way that you open up a loop with the decision maker is you find a problem or an issue or a challenge that they feel like is worth solving. You uncover what that is and just have a little bit of a conversation about that. And if you'll do just that much, you do a good job at opening up a need, opening up an opportunity, opening up really just a need, right? And during the course of your conversation, you're going to work to resolve or identify what can be done to close that loop. What's that problem or issue or challenge, and what are some potential ways that could be done to fix that, right? So in that initial conversation, it's okay to say something like, we've got a lot of clients that we've worked with that have had similar situations, frustrated with a lot of the similar kinds of things, and we've been able to help them overcome that through A, B, or C. Now, I don't know if that's a good fit for you, but so you allude to a way to close that loop. Now, if you stop there in that loop, you're in trouble. They've got this need. You've kind of answered the question and satisfied that need. Before you close that loop, it's really important that you open up a second little loop. And that second little loop is what leads them basically to the next step in your sales process. And that is how you sell the next step in your sales process. So for example, I introduce myself to a decision maker. I ask a couple of questions, hear about something that they're struggling with. I make mention that in our experience, we've been pretty successful helping companies solve that kind of a problem. And then what I do is I open up this loop here and I say, what I'd be willing to do is put together a complimentary strategy session where we could brainstorm together and I could show you some strategies that might help you. Would that make sense? So I open up a valid reason to get together again. and I say, this next opportunity that we're going to get together, it's going to do these things for you to help you with this problem. Does it make sense to do that? Or is that something that's worth chatting more about? And when they say yes, you've done a good job at, again, opening that loop, closing the loop, satisfying their need on that, and then opening up a reason to go to the next step. You're selling that next step in the sales process. And what's interesting is you'll continue to open and close, open and close, open and close loops at every step in the sales process. Every meeting that you have with them, that's you're opening a loop and closing a loop. And this whole idea of opening a loop and closing a loop, again, was taught to me by an expert marketer, Russell Brunson, who's just got a great reputation. He's someone that I admire, certainly. But we can apply this concept of opening loops and closing loops, opening loops and closing loops, as it relates to helping our prospects move through the sequential steps in the selling process that we need to. When we push too hard on selling the product, we don't effectively open up a loop, and we don't effectively close a loop. There's nothing opened or closed. There's no need, and then there's no resolution. There's no movement there. All it is just a quick pitch. Do you want this? Do you not want it? Does it work? Does it not work? And you and I as humans, we don't work like that. We're way too emotional, and we have too much going on. And because of that, as salespeople and as entrepreneurs, we need to recognize that when we, in that first initial introduction, we open up that need, and then we close that need, and we open up a second one by pulling them into that next meeting. That'll do more to help us book more meetings and schedule more conversations with our ideal clients than anything else. So anyway, I hope you guys have enjoyed this quick little training. As I thought about the good old Jim Marshall from the Minnesota Vikings from 1964. I was watching this video. I just thought about how funny that was to see somebody be so excited running in one direction, thinking that they're going to score a touchdown and do a great job, only to find out that they were running the wrong way. Let's you and I not be guilty of that same thing and focusing so aggressively on selling the product that we miss the real objective, which is get them to the next step in your sales process. Selling the product will happen on its own, in its own due time as you go on, but just do a good job at selling that next step in the process, and that'll make all the difference for you. So it's great to be with you guys. If you've enjoyed our conversation today, then let me invite you to do this. Join me this week for a special online sales training workshop that I'm hosting, where I dive deep into 3 strategies, 3 secrets that you can use to boost your sales revenue and build a 6-figure sales income, even if you're a lousy closer or not very good at or if you're brand new to selling in the first place. So click the link below in the description to register as my guest for that free training at salespitchmastery.com/register. And I look forward to seeing you there. You guys have a great rest of your day, and we'll see you again on the next episode of the Terry Hansen Show. Take good care. Bye-bye.